hell are you going to get fired on your day off? Now, in fairness to Mark Sanchez, he hasn't been fired from Fox Sports yet, but more than likely, that is going to be the end result. At minimum, he will likely be suspended. Some of you might be wondering, who in the hell is Mike Sanchez? During the mid to late 2000s, Mark Sanchez was arguably the biggest star in college football. If you weren't alive, or if you were too young in the 2000s, it's hard to understand how mainstream, how big of a deal USC football was during this time. These kids at USC were major stars. Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer, Reggie Bush, Lindell White. Mark Sanchez was the last quarterback in the USC dynasty before everything fell apart and Pete Carroll ran off to the NFL. Unfortunately, most people don't remember Mark Sanchez for his time at USC. He's mainly remembered for the infamous butt fumble. Thanksgiving night 2012. Uncle Casey is at home in his recliner after a long day of stuffing my face. Patriots-Jets, they were the primetime game that night. Believe it or not, this was a high-profile game at the time. The Jets and the Patriots were division rivals. Jets' defense under Rex Ryan was one of the best in the league. The problem was the Jets' offense. It was offensive. In the span of 53 seconds, the Jets gave up 21 points off 3 turnovers. The only turnover, though, that people remember all these years later is Mark Sanchez finding a unique way to fumble the ball off his offensive lineman's boodle. Now, he might be remembered for being unable to handle his liquor. He might be remembered for initially being the victim of a dangerous stabbing. He might be remembered for fighting for his life in the hospital, only to find out a few hours later that Mark Sanchez was not the victim. He was the aggressor, and he was given the distinct honor of being handcuffed while in ICU. This is another prime example of why you shouldn't drink. Uncle Casey has been arrested 10 times in his life. I know that's hard to believe. I know it's difficult to imagine this eloquent, mature, toxically masculine specimen having trouble with the law. But it took me many moons to learn how to stay out of trouble. Now, in my defense, I was not acting alone. Back then, everyone I knew was drinking and partying. Everybody. I mean, everybody. Whether it was sneaking booze into football games on Friday nights, house parties with the so-called cool moms who didn't care if we drank, everyone was having a good time in the moment. Unfortunately, a lot of my friends never made it to 30. Anyway, 9 out of my 10 arrests came between the ages of 17 and 21. During my senior year of high school, I was busted twice in 2 weeks by the same cop. Mardi Gras 2003, I was sitting on someone else's ice chest eating a funnel cake. 2 undercover cops approached me asking what was in the ice chest I was sitting on. I had no idea since it wasn't mine. Of course, that was the wrong answer, and I spent most of Mardi Gras 2003 in a jail cell. 9 arrests from 17 to 21, and I had 1 major error in judgment when I was 30. Do you know what each of these arrests had in common? It's those damn cops. They were racially profiling you. You would have never been the victim of this oppressive system if we had social worker Shanice. Defund the police. Call social worker Shanice. No. The cops were just doing their jobs. I don't know if you know this, But one of the primary responsibilities of police officers is to arrest delinquents. I was a delinquent, but it's strange. Over the last 10 years, I have had zero problems with the police. Sure, I still receive my annual speeding ticket, or I get a ticket after my temporary color blindness causes me to run a red light. But over the last 10 years, and especially over the last 18 months, I have had no problem with the police. Of my 10 arrests, you know what all 10 of them had in common? 100%, 10 out of 10 involved alcohol. I don't have that problem anymore because I quit drinking 18 months ago. There is a reason it's called spirits. And I promise you, they're not referring to the Holy Spirit. The booze is very powerful. It's poisonous. That's not hyperbole. Alcohol is literally a poison. The booze can take a mild-mannered dude who is liked by everyone. The booze can take a highly respected man who is a loving husband and father and turn him into an uncontrollable maniac. The booze can make a well-controlled man violently overreact to a 69-year-old delivery driver who's just trying to do his job. The booze can make you wake up the following morning and ask, "What the hell happened? How did I get here?" Which is exactly what Mark Sanchez was probably asking yesterday morning as he woke up in the intensive care unit of an Indianapolis hospital. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel in the description below. Later today on the second channel, going to be talking about another disastrous day for Arch Manning. This kid, I don't know what the hell's going on with Arch Manning. What I do know is some fans in Texas are running out of patience, and understandably so. Losing on the road to Ohio State, understandable. Losing on the road to a flaming ass fire in Gainesville, that is no bueno. We'll talk about it later today, so click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. This weekend, Mark Sanchez was in Indianapolis to call Raiders Colts on Fox. Friday night, he was at Luff Miller's or Low Miller's Pub and Eatery downtown. Around midnight, Mark Sanchez walks outside of the bar to confront a delivery driver in an alley. When you were growing up, you know how your dad always told you that nothing good happens after midnight? As you get older, you start to realize that 100% of the time your parents were always right. Mark Sanchez found out the hard way Friday night. He confronts this 69-year-old delivery driver in an alley. Dude's just trying to do his job. He's hauling restaurant grease, presumably to the WNBA dump for processing. Mark Sanchez is demanding that he move his truck. I guess the delivery driver refused to comply. According to the driver, Mark Sanchez becomes overly aggressive. He tries to subdue Mark Sanchez with pepper spray, but that obviously doesn't work on someone who's intoxicated with the spirits. So the driver pulls out his knife and allegedly gives Mark Sanchez a little poke in self-defense. Now, whether it was truly self-defense or not, I don't know, but I can understand why it would be. Put yourself in the driver's place. You're 69 years old. You're being confronted by a 6'2", 240-pound former professional athlete. You're not going to fight with your fist because that would not be a fair fight. Obviously, you're going to do what you have to do to defend yourself. As of the recording of this video, which is around 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, Mark Sanchez appears to be doing better. He was arrested in the hospital and charged with battery with injury, unlawful entry of a motor vehicle, and public intoxication. From a legal perspective, Mark Sanchez is going to be okay. He's not going to spend any time in jail, nor should he. Prison should be reserved for these assholes who continue to attack ICE. Me personally, I have no problem with my tax dollars being used to build low-class dumps specifically designed to detain Antifa. But from a legal perspective, Mark Sanchez will be fine. As an employee at Fox Sports, he will likely be a former employee. At minimum, I highly doubt Mark Sanchez will be calling NFL games again this season. Obviously, this is not a good look for Fox or the NFL. There's only a handful of these positions available. You can't have one of your in-game analysts getting drunk and trying to attack senior citizens. But there is something positive that's coming out of this altercation and arrest with Mark Sanchez. For starters, it's a reminder to not jump to conclusions. Several minutes after the news broke yesterday afternoon, Dan Dakich from Outkick, he jumped to conclusions and insinuated that this was a racially charged crime. At the time, Mark Sanchez was thought to be the victim. Dan Dakich claimed that Mark Sanchez or anyone being stabbed in downtown Indianapolis should not be a surprise. We have a ton of fatherless and armed African American kids descending on downtown Indy every weekend. Obviously, that does not appear to be the case with Mark Sanchez. However, that does not mean that Dan Dakich was wrong about what he said. What this altercation with Mark Sanchez has done, it's put a spotlight on the crime problem in Indianapolis. I didn't know that there was a crime problem in Indianapolis. Did you? I've been to Indianapolis several times. I stayed downtown each time. I was there for a week 10, 12 years ago, and I was there for 3 or 4 days in 2022 for the national championship game in college football. Indianapolis is a great city. Each time I was there, very clean. I never felt unsafe. Indianapolis is a beautiful city, but clearly, things have changed. Like every other city that's run by soft-on-crime Democrats, Indianapolis appears to have turned into a flaming ass fire. Well, Casey, that's not true. Crime is actually down in Indianapolis. Yeah, I'm sure the mayor probably says that. I'm sure the media puts a nice coat of polish on that turd. But I just have a hard time believing these crime reports nowadays. I choose to believe the people who are actually there living through it. Either way, bad night for Mark Sanchez. According to people who know him personally, this behavior is uncharacteristic. Mark Sanchez is a well-respected, mild-mannered dude. So this should be a lesson to everyone. Stay away from the booze. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.